over the little climbs, and it looks to me as though he is now getting tired.
Well, Phil, I'm amazed that you knew that that was my salary, 20 million. But in fact, we're talking about 20 million Uganda shillings, weren't we?
Oh, that's correct. Sorry, yes, that's absolutely right, yeah. Not dollars US.
But the thing about the Vuelta a España, it's also a huge entourage of vehicles that they put out onto the road. And just to get this bike race around the country, there are 57 trailers, 22 trucks, 5 coaches, 70 vans, 600 cars, 200 motorbikes, 8 helicopters, which is absolutely remarkable, and 3 aeroplanes, and a couple of those are used for the VIP guests, because races like this, there are a huge number of guests come from all the corporate sponsors to see the bike races, and the most popular stages for them to see are the big mountain passes, and certainly there will be an awful lot of people, I think, coming down to the Vuelta a España tomorrow to see the big mountain top finish at the top of the Sierra Nevada.
This is Dennis Durnett here. He's got back after his little radio problems. He hasn't won a race this year. In fact, the last race he won was the Tour of Flanders, which was a terrific race to win just over a year ago. When he was third, I beg your pardon, the Tour of Flanders. The last race he won was a stage of the Giro d'Italia just over a year ago. So I've got a feeling that Fassa Bortolo today are hoping this rider comes back and they can organise themselves better than they did yesterday and get Pataki over the line first. He's on good form, but they're going to have to really seriously work out how they're going to break up that teamwork of Acqua Saponi coming to the line, Bob.
Well, we saw all 8 teammates of Mario Cipollini at the front of the peloton yesterday, and the other team sort of buzzing around them but not giving them really any trouble at all. Fassa Bortolo is another team that's sort of split in half. They have Francesco Casagrande. They need a few riders to take care of him, and then it's just that much more difficult for the rest of the guys if it's only 5 or 6 riders to lead out their sprinter Pataki. So Cipollini's team, on the other hand, completely, totally, 100% focused on getting Mario to the perfectly. France and the Giro d'Italia have adopted a format where there's a week or 10 days of flat racing before they get to the mountains. What happens is it's so competitive that a lot of times the climbers don't have the reason. There's the radio of the Fassa Bortolo team. No sponsorship whatsoever on that, so we can't really criticize whoever the maker is, but it's obviously not working that well today.
It is amazing. This is the first time we've actually seen this on television. The magical radio revealed for all to see, and the size of it. The easiest way out is probably to change the battery. It's obviously in a little bag there too.
Well, the big problem is a lot of these radios are actually VHF, and they go through an awful number of countries throughout the professional calendar, and what happens is in certain parts of Europe at certain times these guys find themselves getting onto taxi frequencies, so they're trying to talk taxis, they're trying to talk tactics out on the course while somebody else is trying to get themselves picked up at the hotel. And the team manager's in there just now trying to figure out which frequency they can get onto. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a certain amount of tactical espionage goes on, Bob. I haven't heard anybody actually discussing it, but I would think with the scanners that they have on board, they can probably tune into somebody's tactics.
Well, that would be unfortunate if you were trying to pull something tricky. Bike racing,
I think it would be great.
Not usually as clandestine as a lot of other sports when the tactics are pretty obvious, and everyone knows that today the tactic will be for Acqua Saponi to try to lead Mario Cipollini out, with the Telecom and Fassa Bortolo teams trying to get near him. So if you try to intercept some of their transmissions, could help you, but I don't. That would be it would be hard.
Well, you'd have to spend back in 1989. So he must view it as one of his best years.
Plus he's got himself 2 very good, very prestigious one-day races as well. Milan-San Remo, which he dreamed of for many, many years, and of course Gont-Wevelgem, which he won in a rather dramatic style by leaping out of the main field and catching a group with 2 Americans in, Freddie Rodriguez and George Hincapie, and showing them a pretty serious clean pair of wheels on the charge down into the finish in Wevelgem.
Yes, that was an absolutely marvellous Gent-Wevelgem. We've seen Cipollini win that race before, once on the disqualification of Jamaluddin Abdu-Jabbarov, which at the time we thought was rather unjust. But anyway, it went the way of Cipollini. But this time around, it was a fabulous race, and the way he bridged that gap wasn't just a sprint win for him, that was a true all-out road racing win for Cipollini. Last words of advice, I wonder, here for Dario Gudeo now, who's just wanting to at least see Almeria itself. He's racing right down the coast of Almeria now. We've been in the province almost since the start.
Been so far supreme when it comes to a real pure sprint. the stage. The first 2:25 is now the break to Gudeo, and it's coming down, hovering right about just the point where the peloton wants it.
Well, the difficult thing for the lone leader right now is that the main peloton can actually see the helicopter which will be hovering above him, the helicopter which brings the live pictures from the roads of the Vuelta a España, and that's always a difficult thing for a man to helicopter which brings the live pictures from the roads of the Vuelta a España, and that's always a difficult thing for a man to try and slip away. When the gap was around about 11.5 minutes earlier on, he was out of sight and out of everybody's mind until we come down to the final few kilometers, and now they know that they can catch him at any time when they want to. They just have to turn up the gas a little bit and they'll just wipe away that 2 minutes 25 seconds as if it was nothing.
Well, just looking to the left there, you can see a little bit of movement down on the road, far left of our picture. I think that's possibly just a car and not yet the lone rider of Gudeo. Well, let's hope he hangs on at least to get through the town of Almeria and take a little bit of the glory there. This is the peloton. Remember, all of the riders, there's 202 of them down there, and the biggest field ever to ride in this event. Special dispensation from the world governing body was given to put one extra team into the race, hence the arrival of the Big Mat Aubert team from France, which has given Britain's Jeremy Hunt a chance today, although he's having a rough ride right now.
100 metres to go, so it's an ideal sprint again to be led out perfectly and keep all of the sprinters at the front and away from danger. And in fact, with yesterday's split in the main field, a couple of sprinters actually managed to move up in the overall classification, and it will be the last chance for a man like Eric Zabel or even Jose Gutierrez to get closer to the yellow jersey before we go into the mountains, because they are just 9 seconds and 12 seconds off the jersey of Joseba Beloki.
There's something that might prove interesting, Paul, is that the kilometre banner, and we checked this, is actually positioned 1.3 kilometres from the line bomb. Now that could be crucial in a sprint finish.
Absolutely, unless the riders have been alerted to that beforehand. And for the Italian teams, it's maybe they won't be. And we've seen a change on the front of the peloton. The Lamprey riders coming through forward for their man Jan Svorada, who must feel he has a good chance to win today's stage. But all the sprinters will want to win today because they go into the mountains tomorrow, and it's absolutely no hope for the big men for the next few days. So today is the last chance for the sprinters. They'll close the gap, and if they haven't been given the information that it's 1.3 Ks out, it might be a little bit tricky, and some guys might go early.
It is all possible. All answer the pot as we head down towards the finish. Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson will wonder what's going on. Home of the spaghetti westerns. It's a beautiful area. That's actually the main road that's crossing the valley ahead there. The riders are taking the low road right down the coast. This is not the way you'd normally go if you're in a hurry, but it's certainly the most beautiful road here on this section of Spain as they course the way now towards the finish. I have to say, Paul, this has been a very, very good ride by Dario Gudeo, because he hasn't given up. He's very tired now and he's still hanging on.
Well, he's actually ridden at an average of around about 40.5 kilometres an hour since the start, but it is coming down dramatically right now. 1 minute and 15 seconds. He should lose that in the next 5 or 6 kilometres, I would say, and he'll get caught around about the 10 or 15 kilometre to go mark. Good chance to look at the statistics of the wins of this year so far. The man who's won more races than anybody else on the professional circuit is Eric Zabel with 18 wins to his credit. Just chasing him down is Robbie McEwen, the Australian, who won the points competition at the Tour de France. And then in third place, Mario Cipollini. But when you think that Mario Cipollini has had 3 months out of his season with a temporary retirement, he's not doing too badly up there with 11 alongside
in Roquetas de Mar. We've never been there before, so it's a little bit of a surprise. As they came to the roundabout, a rider went down as he didn't make the left-hand bend. We know that Andreas Kloden crashed from Telecom. 2 of the Fuenlabrada riders went down, Novell and Martin Garrido. We think also Cioni went down. Now that looks to me as though it's Ivan Caranta who's gone. So he also went down and was in an extremely good position, because the crash happened about 7 men down, and it wasn't particularly the corner. The rider just seemed to lose control and spun off and took some riders with him.
Well, they went into that traffic circle so quickly. Somebody locked up a wheel and he just slid across the road, and I think it was the panic behind that caused 1 or 2 other riders to go down, but that is a blow for Ivan Quaranta.
Well, I think in fact Caranta there is, well, he won't get back, because he's shown us in the past he seems to not be able to catch the peloton once he's left behind.
And then swing off and completely blow to smithereens, leaving the rest of the team to take up the pacemaking. Cipollini, though, Phil, right now has to remain calm. He has to sit there and have confidence in his team. 1,000 metres to go. There is the red kite.
as they swing in now to the roundabout again. And remember, we think that's at about 1.3 kilometres from the line, that banner today, possibly because of the roundabout in the way. Cipollini has himself in the right place. Zabel is right on his back wheel too. That was in fact Laiagiano, who's trying to bring Oscar Freire into play. Freire is sitting just off to the right of our picture, but there are still an awful lot of boys here from the Italian team of Cipollini. They are not going to relinquish the front until they have to. And Pataki is also trying to get on terms here now as his teammate, I think it's Stangley. He moves off to the right. Now they're fanning across the road. Cipollini is one in front of Eric Zabel, lining up behind Zabel too. Freire desperately trying to get on terms as well. And this could be a very, very rapid finish here for sure, as they now open up. Third man down, waiting now for Lombardi to take up the running, to lead Cipollini to the line. They're leaving it as late as they can. Zabel is tucked in nicely as well. It is going to be a tremendous sprint. It is going to be Zabel Cipollini again. It's only a question of deciding the order as they break for the line now. Lombardi moves out of it now. Cipollini goes. Zabel is in perfect position, but can he come through on the inside? Here is the run of the line by Eric Zabel. The answer is an emphatic no, because this man, if you don't get in front of him way before the line, you will never beat him in a sprint.
Well, he did exactly what he did the day before. He was put into position by his teammates there, right down to the very last moment. And you've got to say, if it was Giovanni to sprint for himself, he could actually have won that stage perfectly, because he had to sprint from 400 to 200.
150 kilometres covered so far, but the next 200 today are going to make a big difference in this year's Vuelta España, because we head up to the top of the Sierra Nevada. 201 riders have taken the start, and one who hasn't gone out to play is the man who won the Giro d'Italia, Paolo Salvadelli. Decided not to start. Hi again, everybody. I'm Phil Liggett, joined of course by Bob Roll and Paul Sherwin. Well, we talked about Mario Cipollini, Paul, for the last 2 days. I guess we'll change that commentary today.
We will. We'll talk about a different kind of rider today. Today's the day of the climbers, and it's going to be a very tough finish with a long climb up to Sierra Nevada. One man I think will climb an awful long way up the overall classification, the man who we thought was going to win the Giro d'Italia this year, Roberto Simone. He rode superbly at the start of the Giro. He looked as if he was going to walk away from it. In fact, after getting one mountain top stage victory, it was announced he was positive for cocaine. Well, after the Giro d'Italia this year, he was completely exonerated. He's come back now, I think, to the Vuelta a España, where he has shone before, to prove that he's a clean bike rider, and to prove today that he has got a chance of winning the Tour of Spain.
Well, we've only had one leader so far, Joseba Beloki, since this race started. Will he get challenged today, Bob? Perhaps by Óscar Sevilla, do you think?
I think that Óscar Sevilla will definitely want to challenge for the race lead today with Joseba Beloki and the rest of our favorites. He is the baby-faced killer of the mountains. He's a fantastic climber, and it's a huge climb to the finish today. He had a wonderful 2001 season where he won the best young rider of the Tour and was second in the Vuelta a España.
Yeah.
He needs a little bit of vindication to come his way during this Vuelta a España, as he has not had a great 02 season, dropping out of the Tour de France about halfway through the mountainous stages on stage 16. So Sevilla, watch for him to be attacking today.
Well, really, this is the first time anybody has been in a position to attack for the overall lead since the team time trial, which started this race, which indeed put all of the ONCE top names right at the top of the leaderboard. That's where they sit today. Here it is. Joseba, very tough stage today, because the climb up to the high spot of the Tour takes us up to almost 8,500 feet.
Well, funnily enough, Phil, you and I were looking at the profile this morning, and it's not an easy way to get there. They'll be riding all over the countryside till they get to the bottom of the Sierra Nevada, and it is a long approach. The stage is the longest we've had so far, 198 kilometres. Leaving the coastal town of El Hierro just behind them, they will go right around Granada until they get up to the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. A small climb at 70 kilometres, but it's the 37th kilometre of ascent of the Sierra Nevada which will make all the difference at the end.
And we're looking now at all of the work being done by Seiko today as they try to keep Simone in a very good springboard position. Now we've switched here to the breakaway. 7 riders coming together, 3 of them getting away after 8 kilometres. Oscar Laguna from Relax Fuenlabrada, Medovic Clon, the lead of the King of the Mountains, and Cofidis, Stefan Burgess of the AG2R, 25 kilometers, they were joined by 4 others: Jesus Maria Manzano, Victor Hugo Peña from US Postal, Rafael Diaz Justo of ONCE, and Jose Vicente Garcia Acosta. That's a mouthful for you. He's from the iBanesto.com. He is the best placed, 31 seconds off the golden jersey of race leader. Now we are just over 60 kilometers from the finish. Remember, the last 37 are all uphill, and we have a lead of around about 4 minutes 50 seconds approximately. Just to go through the story so far and the prizes. On the first climb of the day, Médéric Clon was in that breakaway, won the prize, in effect increasing his lead in the overall classification. And he's also gone through in the hotspot sprint, the Metas Volontes at La Haron, and that's going to help him keep a lead in the combination competition as well. And on the second small climb, he was second behind Garcia Acosta. So he's done very well today.
He's done excellent. He's got himself an awful lot of points out on the course, but I'm not sure he's going to get a lot of points when we get to the top of Sierra Nevada, because that is a completely different kind of climb, and he's not going to be in a breakaway situation when he gets there. The climb is 37 kilometers. It is not all that hard because it's an average of around about 5.5% grade. But I do think we will see a selection of all the big climbers, and maybe a group as big as 10 or 15 riders coming up together at the end of the climb, because most of the climbers will believe that tomorrow's stage is the much harder climb.
His crash yesterday, but that's not confirmed. Anyway, we're underway, we're heading for the mountains, and now we'll take a short break. The 2002 Vuelta a España is brought to you by Linko Heras. Here's Bob Roll to tell us more about him.
2 years ago, Roberto Heras placed 5th overall at the Tour de France and won the Vuelta a España. It was enough to convince the U.S. Postal Service of his abilities, and they wasted no time signing him away from his Spanish team Kelme. In 2001, though, Heras had a difficult season. His performance at the Tour de France was hampered by a knee injury exacerbated by a crash in the team time trial. By the time the Vuelta rolled around, Heras was unable to defend his title and, in fact, even lost his team leader role to an inspired Levi Leipheimer. But Heras's performance this past July at the Tour de France confirmed the Postal Service signing. Described by Postal Director Johan Runiel as one of the top climbers in the world, Heras is certainly capable of a podium performance in Spain. In the absence of Lance Armstrong, the loyal Lieutenant Heras will again step up to the role of team leader, with high hopes of regaining the title he took in 2000.
On the road to the Vuelta a España, because he is one of the top climbers in the world, and all his victory go out on his own. But it's a very good and brave move by this young Frenchman. For the first time we're getting a chance to see Médéric Clon here at the Vuelta a España, and he's been very aggressive since the opening days, which is why he's wearing the King of the Mountains jersey right now. But somebody seems to have caught and passed him there right now, and quite a flurry of attacks from this leading group of 7 riders. But all of the time the main field are getting slowly but surely closer.
This is Laguna, who's gone through. Man that started all the breakaway, and he tried once and failed. They caught him. He went again after 8 kilometers, and it worked. So now he's having none of it. He's obviously still got some good legs here, having been in the lead now for 100 miles today. The relaxed team always grab a nice slice of publicity from this their home race. Now he's coming up behind the other Spanish leader on the road, Jose Vicente Garcia Acosta, who is the leader of the Tour on the road just now.
Well, that's a good move, but I think really they're only prolonging the agony right now, because these guys are going to be going uphill for the next 45 minutes or so. Laguna has come forward right now, and he's a slightly better climber, isn't he, Bob, than Vicente Garcia Acosta, who is a large bike rider, but a man who was the last rider to do all 3 Grand Tours in the 1 year, and I think that was just 12 months ago.
There's a very good, strong bike rider, especially in the crosswind races, the flatter stages. Garcia Acosta and Laguna there, they are working together now, trying to get up this hill as best they can. But I have a feeling that this group, the Peloton, being led, it looks like the Milanitza team, and that's Melchior Mauri's team, who actually won the Tour of Spain a few years ago, and also Klaus Muller, who's a very good bike rider. This racer seems to need 2 helmets, and maybe he got word of the Lyseca crash there, and but I'm sure he's carrying it for his team leader front. I'm sure he's anticipating being dropped, and as the team car comes by for the leaders, the GC men, he'll be able to drop those helmets off, and it is a long, hard day for the sprinters today. Mario Cipollini, not the least of whom, who's won 2 stages already, shown a clear set of wheels to Zabel, and maybe proved emphatically the last couple of days that the Tour de France Society was wrong in not selecting his team. I thought it would be a battle between Cipollini and Zabel for ascendancy as the sprinters really are competitive with each other. Cipollini making sure everybody knows just who exactly is the fastest man on a bicycle, and it is him for sure.
For the moment at least. There's a little view there of the slice of cheese, which is the ascent of the Sierra Nevada. Uphill all of the way. This peloton with the youngsters there enjoying the moment. Are going to see this bunch split up very shortly now. As the pressure goes on at the front, they start to attack one another. Just looking over to the left of the picture there, you can see Erik Zabel is suddenly dropping right back through that middle of that pack as they start to scramble round. This is the first attack from the peloton we're looking at right now, and a chance here to split the field up.
Well, Tony Towler on the far side, the Kelme rider, a man that we've seen ride very well in time trials, such as at the Tour de France. He's basically a worker here for Team Kelme, but right now this is going to put the cat amongst the pigeons for the climbers, because I think they would have expected a general acceleration and an elimination by the rear, but as soon as the road has started to kick up slightly, we found 1 or 2 riders with wings on their shoulders there, Phil, to try and get off the front of the main pack.
Well, we've got Victoriano Fernandez, who's just tagged on to the back, and this is John Odriozola, who's setting the pace for Benesto. There's Fernandez, and also joining right on the back there, looked like a very familiar figure of Mikel Zarabitia. Yes, it is. So a little group trying to get clear of the field. Joan Horak from the Milanese team is a very, very good bike rider. He's got some good results this year, and he's right up there with his team. In fact, Paul, his team are well represented, those boys in the green jerseys.
Well, they're moving forward. The man who wears number 151, who is Klaus Muller, a big revelation over the last couple of years at the Vuelta a España, which is why all of the green jerseys there are moving to the front. It looks as if the Seiko team have completely disappeared from the front end of the main field right now. Only one red jersey very prominent, and that's the jersey of Roberto Simone. In about 12th or 13th position, there is one other Seiko rider, and I would presume that will be Danilo De Luca, who himself a very good climber, but I would think here at the Vuelta will be looking after the hopes of his team leader Gilberto Simone.
Well, trying to tap away just a little bit here is Alberto Lopez de Muñoz, and he's a man they might give their head to just for a little bit of a moment. Himself a little bit of company now.
And Lopez de Muñoz there is the front end of the main field right now, which has certainly been reduced in numbers over the last few kilometres, and a lot of that really is because of the tempo and the pacemaking being set by iBernesto.com. You can see Gilberto Simone fairly close to the front. This is just off the back of that group right now. Tony Towler on the left hand side, 128, has just stopped and waited for Santiago Botero, who's gestured a couple of times to his teammate to don't bother waiting for me today because I'm having a very hard time. And this is very often the case when you hit a big mountain for the first time in a big stage race. In fact, he's doing a fairly good job there, isn't he, Bob? Because he's actually just managing to pull himself back up to the cars.
Well, it seems like he's gotten a rebirth of his legs there, and he's trying to close the gap to the lead group there that's being reduced constantly as you go up this hill, and he's trying to close the gap. Luckily, he has Towler on the Zach, and because Towler stopped, I think that he feels obliged to try to catch, to make another effort, and maybe his legs will come around. In a bike race, you can never give up till you hit the line, because you never know how your body's going to react to the terrain and the tempo that's being set, and it's being set very quickly by these men. They've cut the gap now to 40 seconds to Manzano from the Kelme team, and these three riders are going quite...
Real difficulty of this climb is the fact that it goes to 2,500 meters in altitude, 8,500 feet. It's the rarity of the air towards the summit which will make it that much more difficult, but it is not really that difficult to climb for the pure climbers. It's easy for us to say here, sitting commentating about it, and I know one or two riders are in serious difficulty already, men off the back like Erik Zabel and Mario Cipollini, but for the pure climbers, the likes of Sevilla and of course Roberto Heras, it is not that hard.
Well, Dominguez has hit the wall on the climb. He went with the breakaway. In fact, he started the chase. He's now been picked up by the peloton, so that leaves just in front Manzano, still out in front, followed by Lopez de Muñoz and Luis Perez. They're the leaders. Here the two chasers. 40 seconds the gap to what is turning out to be a formidable piece of riding by the man out front. A reasonably sized peloton. They keep slowing down, riders get on, then they accelerate, riders go off. But they're not really allowed these little escapes too much of a lead over the field as of yet. And I do feel like Paul and Bob, that soon we are going to see one of the real race favourites give it a go on this climb, see what's around.
And that may well come from a man wearing a red jersey, because a man who I find very aggressive on these kind of climbs is Roberto Simone. This is another little flurry of attacks, and this is group number 2 trying to get themselves up to the main field at the moment. There's Santiago Blanco, who was halfway across the gap just a few moments ago to the 2 leaders, and the 2 leaders are still Lopez de Muñan and Luis Perez, but they're not very far in front. There was the group we were just looking at with Santiago Blanco, but the main field is in a long line at the moment. That's something you don't usually see, is it, Bob, on a map?
This field has regrouped here for sure now, and they're going to have to rethink the next attack. As we swung here to the back of the race, this is the best. This will be Aitor Oza. Now, where is he? He's off the back. Now, that's a surprise as well.
Well, there's a lot of strange reactions coming here today, but you know, ONCE are going to have to do something very special in a few moments' time, because Luis Perez from Team Coast, by the way, is only 39 seconds down in the overall classification. So he's at the moment hovering on the point of taking the yellow jersey away from Joseba Beloki, who was just there wearing number 161.
Well, Phonak are trying to stretch the legs again now. Once it relaxes, this is what you do, and it's the best way to try and split them up. Oscar Pereiro, another Spanish rider, and this a team which this year has accelerated into the first division of cycling and has been a very good team this year.
Well, they're not giving too many presents out, are they, at the moment, Bob? Every time there is an acceleration, there's a counter acceleration behind, as they all try and make sure that if the move does go off the front, they've at least got a man in there. This is Rui Sousa coming off the front right now for the Milanese, the Portuguese team, and getting himself across there as well. One of the Ibanesto.com riders, who looks very much as if it's going to be Lastras who's coming there, the man. Chance right now, they hold around about a minute, 1 minute 15 over the chasers, which are being led by a charging Óscar Sevilla right now. Felix Garcia Casaus on the front here actually used to ride for the Festina squad. He's been a professional for a long time, since 1992. He's probably the most experienced of those riders, but he's never really, Phil, been a great performer. So he too would be looking at getting himself a pretty serious win if he can. He got a win last year in the Vuelta a España, and that was on stage 15. So he'll be looking to try and get that again if he can.
And George Gatsk here, he was seen to be in trouble halfway up the climb, has recovered completely. He's just about hanging on to the flying wheels of Óscar Sevilla. As we're just seeing these riders slip off, this Santiago Blanco coming backwards. I have to say, I didn't see him go forwards, Paul.
Well, he was in a small counter-attack a few moments ago, but this race has been forwards and backwards all of the time for many of these riders, with attacks coming absolutely incessantly. This is what the race situation is right now. There are 2 leaders there. You can see Cabeza de la Carrera. That's Felix Garcia Casaus with Guido Trontin. Number 2 on the right-hand side are the 2 chasers there, Óscar Sevilla and Jorg Jax. Jorg Jax is doing this superb job as teammate of the leader. He's in 6th place overall himself, but there's a big gap between them and the 2 chasers, 1 minute and 12 seconds and 37 seconds to the main field. So that the main contenders, Bob, they're doing nothing at all to chase down on. Well, there's Roberto Simone in the red jersey. He probably feels a little bit thwarted in his advantages of getting off the front here, because he's outnumbered dramatically by the Spanish riders in this race, and he will just try and ride a sensible tempo to the finish. I think he'll look maybe at trying to get himself a victory tomorrow. There's Joseba Beloki, the man who was the leader at the start of today, but he's not going to be the leader tonight, because he, like all of the other leaders, have had a hard time on the first mountain stage of this year's Vuelta a España. Roberto Heras is in the group as well, completely devoid of teammates, and that is somewhat of a surprise for me right now, because before the start of the Vuelta I had a feeling that this man was going to be the outright winner, but I obviously discounted the performance of the man there in the green shorts, Óscar Sevilla, who is riding an absolutely superb last few kilometres of this climb.
Well, just being passed backwards there to one of the other attackers there, Jose Acevedo, you see, another rider who's riding so well in the Tour de France, is finding the pace as we come towards the top of this climb. Very, very difficult indeed. We're now at the 2-kilometre bend on the climb now. We've got a nice long straight and a hairpin back again as we make our way up to the summit. It's certainly not decided the Tour of Spain today, Bob, but there's been some very unusual moves.
Well, no one would have expected Guido Trentin to be contending for the leader's jersey at this point, and Sevilla needs to close within about 10 seconds of him to get it. But Guido Trentin having a great day today, and Sevilla as well, putting time into his rivals.
Well, how nice it is, Paul, to see two French teams on the attack in the Tour of Spain. That hasn't happened very often, even if one is Spanish and one attack.
In this race.
Looks like a big tailwind is blowing the two leaders up the road right now. You could barely see the red flag because it was coming. This looks like De Luca has come across. He's attacking hard. We'll see how far he is behind Sevilla's group, but I don't think they're going to be able to catch the two guys in the front of the bike race right now at the Cabeza de la Carrera.
Well, I've no idea at all where Danilo De Luca came from. He's absolutely charged out of the pack. Just in front there, that little group of riders you can see is Óscar Sevilla. The two leaders are well off the front of the race right now, and they will certainly decide between them who will take first and second places. But this man, Danilo De Luca, has seen there's a big marking between his own team leaders, Roberto Simone, Joseba Beloki, Heras, Angel Casero, last year's winner. So he's thought, well, why don't I take advantage of it? He's a long way down in the overall classification at the start of today, but all of that is going to change.
Well, Danilo De Luca, we saw his strength, and when he won stage 2, he said he was still looking after his team leader for the main classification, but they take their stage win chances when they came. Well, it looks as though De Luca, in fact, might well be rejoining at the back of this group, as we see an attack by Beloki now. Now, Beloki has launched the attack. It's caused us a little bit of a flurry, but no real reaction, which means he knows the field is on the limit of their ability. This is Angel Casero. It was just going off our picture there, trying desperately to do something but couldn't answer it, as Beloki is now keeping the pressure on. Good move so close to the finish.
Very good move. He sat back and waited all of the time, riding a sensible race. Manuel Beltran was there as well for Team Coast, but we are now rejoining Danilo De Luca. This man is a brilliant bike rider. There is Óscar Sevilla. Trentin has accelerated at the summit here. He's gone completely away from Garcia Casaus. He's going to get the win for Cofidis.
He's going to get the win, and if they wait for the time count at 26 seconds, he'll get the race lead as well. And Garcia Casaus, the aging Spanish rider for Cofidis, for the Big Mat rather, will be second. So there's the victory for Guido Trontin. That's the best win he's ever had, and the clock has started now. Casaus comes over in second place. I think he was, yes, he made second just about, and it'll be De Munian perhaps who came over in third. Zalabitia was there as well.
I think it might be Zalabitia in the jersey at the end of the day. He just tacked on to fourth place. So here's Vino Kurov coming around, and he was on even time with Beloki, so he had to close 26 seconds. It's going to be very close. A really exciting finale today.
Well, there's Vinokurov coming across the line there, but there's been a serious sort-out over the last kilometre or so as Mikel Zarabaitia getting himself third or fourth on the stage there. And again, Jorg Yaks coming through. Here's Óscar Sevilla. He's done the damage today, Phil, on the men he wanted to, and Danilo De Luca has almost closed the gap on everybody.
Now, De Luca's crossed about 49 seconds down, so he'll come up the overall classification tonight. But that's a very good performance and a good escape by Óscar Sevilla. Won't be huge gains tonight, but you never know in the long term how they affect the classification. It looks as though they lassoed Joseba Beloki and put him back in the pack.
Well, there's still a long way to go to the finish here as we go a little bit further down to see just exactly who's going to come round the corner next. But that was a good move by Joseba Beloki, but they're not going to let him ride off the front quite that easily. There are the two riders from Team Coast. Last year's winner, Angel Casero. Beltran is in there as well.
No Heras. There's Heras just coming into the screen.
Tailed off.
Having a hard day today. No teammates in the front, and he's being dropped by Escartin there, Beloki, Casagrande, Simone. It's a really explosive
Mercado has just come in as well. And now Heras, there he is coming in, has lost some vital seconds here.
Well, he's going to lose
look at the time gap for Beloki, Paul, a minute and 40 seconds, so he's certainly lost that lead, and he has lost a lot of time. And somebody like Simone, he's looking at 3 minutes time gap now.
And there's Angel Casero just coming all across the gap as well. So some changes, but the first sorting out of the overall classification. Nothing really dramatic, because tomorrow we have another very difficult mountaintop.
And welcome back to our live coverage of the Tour of Spain, stage number 6. We stay in the mountains. In fact, we find a new mountain for the race this time around. It's said to be extremely steep, and it is the place where riders may not win this year's Vuelta España, but they certainly can fall away from contention. That's what the riders themselves are saying. Hello again, everybody. I'm Phil Liggett, joined, of course, by Bob Roll and Paul Sherwin. Paul, yesterday there were changes we really didn't expect. Big names lost big time.
Well, it was rather surprising to see the performance of Ángel Casero, and I think Johan Brunel a little worried by the performance of Roberto Heras yesterday, and of course the whole of the US Postal Service team, apart from Christian van der Velde, who rode a very good stage. But I think what yesterday's stage did do was it showed that Óscar Sevilla is a serious contender for the overall victory here. But I thought there were some rather strange tactics out on the course. Nobody really wanted to give it everything. I think the reason for that is because today is going to be a very difficult stage.
Very difficult indeed. In fact, this finishing climb over the last 5 kilometres is said to be extremely steep as 15%. Bob, Óscar Sevilla knows this climb. Not many of the riders do, and he is still one of our tips for the top.
Yes, it's a road that's not used for traffic, and you can't really get on it. And he took some journalists up in the wintertime just to preview the climb, and it's very steep. He said that the riders are probably be using a 39 by 23. Sevilla, the only one of our favorites to be able to shake up the GC at all. He came blasting out of the peloton with about 4Ks to go. He got a little bit of time. It wasn't a huge shakeout on GC, but Óscar Sevilla showed that he was the only one of our favorites. That's the strong guy right now at the moment, and he has predicted that he will take over the Golden Fleece as race leader at the end of the stage.
All right, well, we can have a look now at the overall classification. There were changes, of course, yesterday, and there were some riders lost many minutes on that final climb of 37 kilometres. The new leader, first time he's ever led a major tour, Mikel Zarabitia for ONCE. He's the man on 0 time now. The stage winner yesterday, Trentin, is in second. Vinokurov up to 4th, Sevilla up to 5th, looking for 1 minute and 49 seconds to take the lead. Now, this is a severe climb, and yesterday people like Roberto Simone and, of course, last year's winner, Ángel Casero, all lost big time, and Santiago Botero. Now, Paul, this is a real sting in the tail.
Well, it's a sting in the tail, Phil, but it's also a very difficult road to get there. Once again, the race will be dominated by the heat, which really has come over this southern part of Spain at the moment. It's a 153-kilometre ride that the riders will face up to this morning, starting from Granada, where we expect the Vuelta a España will start in 2005. And then, look at the profile here. It's a big climb up to Sierra de la Bandera, which in fact is a military road which is closed for most of the year.
And as you join us now with these live pictures, a puncture here to one of the Kelme riders. We have a breakaway of 16 men clear. This is the man himself, Sevilla. Now he's been off the back adjusting his handlebars, and his team waited for him, but now he's off the back with a flat tyre. It looks as though he's back in the action pretty quickly.
Well, that was Vicente Belda, his team manager there, who was pushing off. He's actually 48 years of age today, and he's not the only man having a birthday, because in fact Oscar Kamenzind, the former world champion from Switzerland, is also celebrating his 31st birthday. But I think Óscar Sevilla feels rather nervous today. He's been adjusting his handlebars. He's just had a problem with his front wheel there, which was changed, and again it may well be that he's just trying to get himself ready for what everybody regards as a very serious rendezvous for this man today, because everyone believes that by the end of today, if he shows the form he had yesterday, he'll be the new leader of this race.
Well, the situation is that 16 riders got themselves together after a very rapid start today, just 4 kilometres into the stage. 16 of them have gone clear. The best placed overall is Jose Enrique Gutierrez, 29th this morning, 3 minutes 22 back. The lead is 3 minutes 37, so he's just the race leader on the road. It's never been allowed to get more than 4.25 minutes, so they're marking the escape. There's nobody else of significance in there that would probably be seen as a long-term winner possibly of this tour, and so everybody is waiting for the big showdown. We're heading just on the outskirts of the city of Jaén at the moment, and once we're through there, there's 2 very nasty climbs culminating with the big climb at the...
And once 16 riders got clear, it certainly put an awful lot of pressure, Phil, onto the ONCE squad, even though most people believe that Óscar Sevilla is the man who's going to take the lead by the end of today. It's still in the ranks of Team ONCE with Mikel Zarabitia, and of course for them Joseba Beloki is the #1 favourite. So ONCE have assumed the role of doing all of the pacemaking at the front, and I think once we get to this final climb of the day, a lot of those ONCE riders are going to disappear. But certainly they are assuming the role as the team leaders of this bike race at the moment, but I think they will certainly pay over the next 2.5 weeks of racing.
Well, as we pass through yet another beautiful city in this region of Spain, let me tell you a little bit about the finish, which lies still ahead of the riders. As Bob said earlier, in fact, Sevilla in December did ride up it. They opened the gates for him because this is a military region where nobody is allowed, and so the gates are locked from about 5 kilometres from the top. But I am told if you knock on the door of the town hall of the local village, they have a key to the gates. That's just in case you fancy going and checking out the finish for yourself one day. Never been used before. Very, very steep in the last 3 kilometres. Has a nasty kick at the start, 17% for some 600 metres. Little bit of a respite, and then back up through the gate, and it really hits you 15% towards the line. So it is a real climbing finish today, not a long steady drag as it was yesterday. Here we are, the peloton heading up towards the sprint point, and the clock's still counting. So they're holding them, but they're not impressing. Now we're looking here at the breakaway again, because Clan is all of a sudden, Paul, back in the peloton. Now he lost 3 minutes pretty quick, didn't he?
He certainly did. It gives you an idea. He's been a very aggressive bike rider, Phil, since the early part of this race, and that's why he's leading that King of the Mountains competition. Got himself some points out on the course today, but as we get closer to the steeper part of this climb, a lot more riders are feeling the urge to try and break themselves off the front.
That's Fabio Sacchi, who's just launched an attack at the moment for Seiko, and I think he's probably trying to escape to survive for the day, I think, because he won't have any ambitions of winning the stage, not with the hill that lies ahead. This is the Jazz Tail rider out on the attacks, guy Smetanine. Not too sure where he is, but they're indicating, I think he's off the back, looking at the riders descending in front of him. So this breakaway has really fragmented, and Médéric Clan really did shoot back into that peloton, a gap of 3 minutes ever so quickly once they split up on the climb. Now a chance to see what is happening here as we go by riders who are out on the road. This will be the relaxed rider, Jose Luis Rebolo, also trying to bridge gaps. We're still not sure who is. We should have Gutierrez at Towler and Schneider still out front.
Well, this move here by Relax is rather a good move as we get closer to the final climb of the day. You can see this group really has splintered completely over the last few kilometres of racing, and you can see there that everybody's just trying to grapple back onto the man in front, and Rebolo, in fact, at the moment is the man leading the bike race. Is about to get caught there, and it looks as if it's Danny Schneider who's come back up again for a team. He had a slipped disc, and later on in that season he had a car crash, and Benesto dropped him like a stone. And it was only really Team ONCE that came along and had confidence that they could build this rider back up. But they don't have that much confidence, Phil, in him keeping the yellow jersey for too many more days. And I think he's quite happy just to be enjoying that short incursion into the golden jersey of leadership.
Well, I think he'd be lucky to keep it by the end of this day, in all honesty, because of the climbs which lie ahead. Although it's a very strange overall situation just now. Óscar Sevilla in 5th place and 52 seconds behind Zarabitya is in a position to take the overall lead today. There's the gap. They've gone through Los Vilares at 2 minutes 13 the gap now. So they are closing in. They've chipped about a minute off the advantage of the breakaway, which is now 13 riders strong. Benesto are taking control at the front, and there'll be plenty of riders willing to give them a hand shortly. We are on the climb now of the Puerto de Los Vilares, and from there we go on to the next climb, which will bring us up to the finish. Some great racing still to come. Tony Towler is the man, and Iker Flores, a Basque rider, has had 1 win this year, and that was way back in February. He's only had 3 throughout his professional career, but the big one, of course, was in the year 2000 when he won the Tour de l'Avenir, which is on at the moment as well. Now then, can they ride away from the field? Because once again, as we look here at our familiar man here, Mario Cipollini pacing up, the man he always paces normally for the sprint finish, Mario Cipollini, but I think if we could swing round a bit, this group may now be slipping away.
Well, this is a start in the formation of the autobus. This is very often the situation that happens at the back here, as we look at Gilberto Simoni. And he's in fact, I think, decided to go off in pursuit right now of the leading group. So that's a good move by Simone to attack so early on. I think he's got the form in this year's Vuelta a España, and he certainly enjoys racing in Spain, and in fact won himself a mountain top finish last year. But this really has put the cat amongst the pigeons when a man like him attacks.
Well, look at this at the front too, because Flores has just turned up the gas a little bit and he's blown Towler off his wheel, and Iker Flores is now going what he hopes will be a win for the team. Simone, quick reactions now as the field comes up behind. Sevilla is in the mix too on the left now. They weren't going to give Gilberto very much room today because they know with the time gaps, because overall Simone is 2 minutes and 41 seconds down. He felt probably he had to go early and try and build a little bit of a gap, but they're wise to that one as they've jumped on him and brought him back. He's just checking now to see who else is coming up. A resorting of the peloton. This, remember, is the second category climb. It's not the big one up to the finish, which is around about an 8-kilometre climb up to the line with an average gradient on the climb of around 16 or 17%. It's a real steep climb. That's still to come.
And his men to the front there. There is Sevilla, fairly close to the front. Right behind him is the leader of the bike race, Mikel Zarbaitia. And a little bit further back there is Joseba Beloki as well. So Beloki has moved to the front end of this group. That is Cioni now, who's been dropped by the leading group. He was in that leading group of 16 riders a lot earlier on. And you can see the faces of these riders, Bob. I think they tell it all, and we're not yet on the steep part of the climb.
Well, that was a really good move, and it looks like Aitor also has attacked that little group that's off the front with Simone. He was just in Simone's group. You can see Simone behind in the red jersey, closing the gap to him. This is serious racing right now. Sevilla, Beloki caught out a little bit. We'll have to see how Heras and Casero are doing as well, but it seems like right now it's Simone's race. He is taking the attacking style that he was famous for in the Giro d'Italia till he was booted out of that race, and I'm sure he wants to be vindicated. They're catching riders that were in that big breakaway. That's probably Ferrara, who's going back like a stone. You can see just how fast these riders are chasing now.
Well, it's always great in the Tour of Spain because nobody really seems to reserve anything for the next day. Once they get to the mountains, they just throw everything at it as hard as they can, and that's what I think makes it such a different tour, Phil, to all of the other big tours, the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France. In Spain, every time they come to a mountain, it's literal explosions.
It is, and this is what they were waiting for today, and I think Tony Towler's had enough too. He's been cooled down because he was on the attack a little bit earlier. So the original breakaways, one by one, are throwing the towel in, but the bad news is, of course, here comes Simone on the charge, and he is leading some very, very good bike riders now. Back up to the leader here, who is still out on his own, and will go over the top of the Puerto de los Vilares in first place. Now, Flores is a good climber, and he's obviously planned this today, perhaps to try and fly a lucky flag for Euskaltel-Euskadi for a change, because they've had some rotten luck this year, and culminating yesterday with that very bad crash to Robert Laiseca. He is still clear. We'll have the clock running, I'm sure, on that flag at the moment. He's now heading off into the unknown and the key to Bandera's box, may I say, because that's where they're going now. A road they've never raced on before, reported to be an absolute brute. One man who knows exactly what lies in front of him is Óscar Sevilla, and he reckons that this could be seen later as possibly the hardest climb in this year's Vuelta, and we all know we've already got still to come the angle. Back nearly a minute of that, Paul.
Well, Iban Mayo in there in third position in the orange jersey, but it wasn't exactly a surprise attack, was it? He went to the front of the main field and accelerated. He put a big flag up above everyone and says, right, I'm going now. Anybody who wants to get the Simone train, come along right now. And he hasn't hardly ever looked back, Bob. This man obviously dedicated today to try and blow the race to pieces and move himself up a lot higher in the overall standings. Probably a little smarting because of his performance yesterday, where he lost some time on the other favourites.
Well, this is a good climb for Simone, who is a great climber, and he has come to the Tour of Spain with tremendous morale, obviously good fitness. It doesn't look like he's even trying that hard, and he's gaining time. So when we get to the steeper bits, I'll bet he keeps on his attack there. And this is a very select group of bike riders, including Vinokurov and Cauchioli and Garcia's Casaus, who was climbing great yesterday as well.
Well, Iban Mayo is also in there now. Mayo is still riding well up in the overall. He's in 17th place. Sitting at the back here too for the Benesto squad is Aitor Oso. We've got Oscar Camazin in here, Fabian Yecker, Carlos Garcia of Kelme, as well as Simone, Cauchioli, Vinokurov. Powerful riders up here now. Vinokurov in the best position now to turn his jersey into a golden colour tonight. Fourth overall at the start of the day, just 36 seconds behind the leader, and he's more than that ahead. 8 kilometers to go. The last time check we got was precisely 30 seconds, and it's 45 seconds they're saying now, so they're stretching a little bit. Now as the riders start to swing off the busy road and head up the steep climb, this is going to be a real battle of the strong men. The peloton are still close enough to reach the leaders if they can climb well. Now there's the information on the Sierra de la Bandera. A maximum gradient of 15%. It starts with 600 meters of 16 to 17%, and it is 5 miles long. It's a real toughie, this one, and about 5 kilometers from the top they've opened the gates and they're allowing the riders onto top secret military territory.
Well, at the summit it's 1,840 meters. That's the same altitude as Alpe d'Huez that the riders go up in the Tour de France, and that comes in at just under 6,000 feet in altitude. There's the road they're turning off onto now, and it really is very much like the summit of the Mont Ventoux at the top here, because there's hardly any vegetation at all, and there's certainly not an awful lot of oxygen in the air. The main field, I think, have made a serious mistake there, allowing Roberto Simone a 30 or 40 second advantage, because it's going to be a chase to catch up all of the way to the summit of this climb by the big leaders here. And we get a chance here just to look at the gradient here. There you can see this climb is 8.3 kilometers in length. The average gradient is put at 6.4%, but I think the most important part is there in the middle, where you can see that the beginning of the climb is 14%, then the middle part is 15% for about 2 kilometers, and that's where I think we'll see 1 or 2 riders in that main field disappearing off the back, Bob.
Here is Aitor Flores, the guy in the front of the bike race right now. You can see he's starting to pedal circles, and he's paying the price for that breakaway now. He's really suffering. He's got a ways to go. Simone, on the other hand, is right there at the front of the second little group, and he is not suffering at all. He is really putting the hammer down. None of these riders have helped him at all so far in the breakaway. They're leaving it all up to Simone, who is obviously the strongest rider in the race. Our cherubic assassin Sevilla is still in the peloton. We'll have to see how he starts to climb, but I'm sure you're going to see that huge group start to detonate as these riders attack this final climb of the day.
Oh, it's impressive, Bob, the way Simone's got onto this slope. He's never asked for any help. He's never looked at anybody. He's just kept the pressure on. He's got Mayo on his shoulder. He's got Camazin, 31 years old today, and I think looking like a very good bike rider in this tour as he comes up to the front.
Very strong man. Good performance by him today. Cacchioli was at the back of the group, seemed to be having a bit of difficulty with the early gradient here as we look at the rear end of the main field, which is obviously immediately putting a lot of riders into difficulty. That's Alejandro Valverde just going off the back for Team Kelme, and a man who already early on, Phil, in the stage today, Santiago Botero, is really suffering in the mountains and certainly not got the form. But look at that. This is Aitor Flores, who a few moments ago was 37 seconds ahead of the whole of this group. Because of the work of just one single bike rider in this group, he's been brought back into the fold, and Roberto Simone today is looking for the win.
He's caught him at about 7 kilometers from the end of the stage. He's now the leader on the road. He's lost too much time to be the leader at the end of the tour today, but he's thinking much further ahead than that. There's his situation, 2:41 down, losing most of that time yesterday, and the rest of it in the team time trial, where his team had a very bad ride, as well as a bit of a prang, I believe, although we got no pictures of that. Apparently one of the Seiko riders did crash. Now looking at 7 kilometers to go now. Roberto Simone, for the first time in this tour, has rid himself of his major rivals for some reason, and maybe they could do nothing about it. They watched him leave their group, and he went early enough to make the time that might well prove positive thinking by him. There's the peloton now, completely blown apart, and I'm sure that Sevilla will be in that advanced party. He's the rider now who knows this climb, knows what's coming.
Looks like Christian Velde, yeah. Doing another good day, and that's Heras on his wheel, and they look like the best of the rest. Sevilla on Heras's wheel there, and they're trying desperately to close the gap. They know this is a dangerous situation, that Simone is up the road there, really flying. But Sevilla, Heras, Christian Vande Velde as well. That might be Joran Horak or perhaps Klaus Muller there on the Milanezza team in the blue and green. And Sevilla looking back to check out where maybe Casero is. We don't see him or Beloki at all.
I'm just trying to see what Sevilla is doing now.
That's De Luca he's talking to, and
yeah.
I'm sure that De Luca will not be working with these guys. Christian Vande Velde is having a great day. Another fantastic day for him. He crashed out of the Tour last year after a couple of bad crashes, even though he had really good form, and he didn't get selected this year, and now he's proving that he is a top-quality bike racer.
Absolutely agree, Bob, and hats off to him, because he is riding this hill totally committed now to try and draw Heras back into the game plan here, because at the moment they've been outwitted by the Italian Simone, who appears to have the legs to go with his mouth.
Well, I don't think there was any outwitting at all there, Phil. He went to the front of the field and he put a flag up and said, "I'm attacking now. If you want to come along with me." And nobody, I think, was able to follow him, apart from the small number of riders who are with him at the moment. But you can see that this climb is certainly having a serious effect on the main field, which is absolutely shredding at the back end. That was Massimiliano Lelli going off the back there. This was the man who won the stage yesterday, Trentin. He's also having a bit of difficulty suffering with this tempo that's being set at the front end of the field right now.
He's not that far behind at the moment, though, because this is the advanced part of the peloton. Remember that there is that group up front containing Carlos Garcia, Iban Mayo, Oza, Yeka, Kamenzin, Gilberto Simoni, Vinokurov. Here we are now, back with the leaders, and still this relentless tempo being done by Gilberto Simoni. Another kilometre ticked off. That'll make 6 to the top now. And what a great ride it really is being performed by the man on the right of our picture there, which is Christian Vande Velde, trying to drag his team captain back into this race.
Well, there at the bottom left-hand corner, and we've got him full screen right now. There is Mikel Zarbaitia, 169, the leader of the bike race this morning. He's had the advantage of not having to work too much with the team. Just in front of him in the yellow is Fernando Escartin of Team Coast. He too is riding better and better as he gets older with age. He's a brilliant bike rider, and I think now he'll be riding this year's event to look after Angel Casera, who's just a little bit further forward there on the tail of Joseba Beloki, who's currently riding in about second position. These guys are now looking at 6 kilometres to go to the finish, and they're around about 20 seconds behind the Christian Vande Velde and Roberto Heras group, so not a lot of difference there for the moment. But Vande Velde, I would have to say, is doing a superb job of work for US Postal, who are today, I have to say, totally noticeable by the absence of the majority of the other team members.
Well, again, we've seen US Postal caught light here, and only one man able to look after Heras, but he's looking after him as best he can and doing really a good job just now. I think they're closing in on this breakaway group, because in the distance there we have the Vande Velde group now. They can see Simone, and visibly it looks as though Vande Velde is riding that little bit quicker. He could also be doing the perfect game plan too, though, for Óscar Sevilla, Bob.
Yes, absolutely. Sevilla closing in on the Golden Fleece today. Also, Vinokurov, who's in the Simone group. He's the highest place rider, 5th on GC, just a few seconds ahead of Sevilla. It's going to be a real war to the finish, not only for the stage, but also for the golden jersey today.
Well, the rider there just going through our screen is the top man, and that is Klaus Muller. Had a great tour last year for the Milanese team, and looking like he's been looking forward to this climb, because he's right there in that chase group with Vande Velde. Zarabitia has always said he's not the man to win the Tour, but the man who he thinks might win it, Beloki, is also in trouble again.
Well, just on the right-hand side there, wearing number 51, your favourite number, by the way, Phil, David Miller, who's managed to get into the group there as well. So he's riding well. He said he wanted to ride high in the overall classification. The orange jersey there is David Echavarria. A little move of the hand there by David Miller, Bob, just to say, give me a bit of space here, because that motorbike was getting just a little too close.
Well, yes, you have to be aware of all the motorbikes around you, as well as spectators and the riders that are in the peloton with you. And it requires a lot of coordination and as well as bike handling skills, not just power and tactics. And here's the second little group, still being led by Christian Vande Velde. He's reinvented himself, and he's found some great form somehow between being left off the tour team. He's been able to regain some morale and having a great Vuelta a España.
Well, I think they've just caught back there Aitor Oza, who's just come back from the group from Bunesto, so that's one back for them. As the relentless pace continues, Mayo riding behind Gilberto Simone. And this little group now, as you can see in all our pictures, they're just around the corner to the group on the right. That's the group on the left I'm talking about, just around the corner. As we see the third group on bottom left, what is left from top and tail of the group. 2 shots of it there with the yellow jersey sitting down in the group. This is where it starts.
Is really not having that much of a difference in the times that these riders are getting. There is the group of the yellow jersey, but they're now, as you say, Phil, on the steepest part of the climb, 15 to 17% grade. And there you can see Simone, and the encouragement there coming for Sevilla, who's in difficulty, was Roberto Heras has dropped him.
Well, this is the part that Sevilla said would really hurt people, and they could lose the Tour in the last 3 kilometres today. Sevilla knows the road, and he's hanging on strongly in there. But Roberto Heras, who didn't ride so well yesterday, is seemingly like an inspired man today.
Well, this is a much steeper climb than yesterday, and it's the real terrain where Heras really shines. He's a great climber, and look at him. He's already caught some of the breakaways that were in the front group, and he's already caught back to almost everybody there. He's probably right behind Simone now, and just Iban Mayo is slightly detached. There he's going to catch all the guys in front of him, and he is really flying up the road.
This is fabulous riding, Bob. It was Carlos Garcia who just went off. He was up with the leaders, and now he's cutting a trail right through to the front of this race. This is now Felix Garcia Casaus, who was second yesterday. Just move over because I'm coming straight by. Óscar Sevilla is also gone. He's an inspired climb today.
He is the fastest man on the road right now. He has made his move at the right time, and he's closing the gap to Simone, who's just around the corner there.
Well, I think Roberto Heras... Oh, there's a problem there. That's Kamenzin. He just touched the wheel in front, and you want to try and get going on a gradient like this. It's going to be very hard for him. Garcia Casaus has popped off the wheel there of Roberto Heras. Heras is now behind the neutral service car, so right in front of that car we should see the group of Gilberto Simone, and there he is right now. It was said overnight by Johan Brunel that he wasn't sure what the form of Roberto Heras was, but
we know now.
We can't see what this gradient is like, but I have to tell you, it's 17%. It's almost like the Koppenberg or the Mur de Grammont.
And there you see why we referred to it being like Mont Ventoux today. As they come up onto these dizzy heights at 1,800 metres above sea level, Roberto Heras is riding seemingly to the stage win. He won't be riding, I don't think, with a deficit of 1:49 to the golden jersey, but I don't think many are going to get near him now.
Well, Simone's responded there. He was obviously hearing and getting the information that Roberto Heras was coming back. And there is the yellow jersey right now in difficulty at the back of that group. Mikel Zarabaitia, the leader at the start of the day. It may well be that we'll look at a new leader at the end of today, and it may well be that it's going to go to Alexander Vinokourov, who's the best placed rider in this group of riders right now. But Roberto Heras has put the hammer down, a former winner of the Vuelta a España, 9th place in the Tour of France this year, and that despite doing an awful lot of work for his team leader Lance Armstrong. You get an idea here, Bob, don't you, just how difficult and how steep this gradient is, and we're still an awful long way from the finish.
Simone is absolutely turning himself inside out to try to close the gap, limit the damage that Heras is doing to the whole field right now. Simone, the only pre-race favorite able to match him. Sevilla's been dropped. All of the ONCE guys, we just saw Casero going backwards there on the bottom left hand of the corner, and Heras up at the front is just really hammering. He's on great form today, and he has a day that he's been dying to have. Steep. He's the undisputed team leader. He had great help from Van der Velde, and he's taken advantage of all of that.
Well, Óscar Sevilla, we know, went to look at this climb during the winter because he took a lot of journalists with him, but I wouldn't want to bet my bottom dollar that this man hasn't been and looked at it either, because Johan Brunel is absolutely perfect at preparing races like the Vuelta a España and the Tour de France, and I'm pretty sure that this young man right now knew exactly what he was letting himself in for.
Here he comes.
And he's put Sevilla into difficulty.
He is in trouble, but he's getting rid of everybody around him as he's trying, not quite with the souplesse of Heras, to come through to the front. He is closing in on all of the riders, debating whether he's closing in on this man, though. He is giving us a superb demonstration today, and what a marvellous piece of riding this is on the steep slopes. So enjoy the pictures with us, because thanks to Lincoln, this is a half-hour commercial-free part of our programme, as now Sevilla is 3 kilometres from the top. Oh, that was close, so you've got to be careful there, Roberto.
Look at the gear he's using as well. Very reminiscent of the pedalling action of Lance Armstrong. Sevilla, on the other hand, seems to be using an absolutely huge gear. There's Vinokourov. He's being picked up now there by Óscar Sevilla, who's plodding along in rather a huge gear, completely different to the cadence of Heras.
Yeah, 39.23 is what he's opted for, although he did suggest other riders might like to go down to 25.
Ooh, that's a horrendous gear. Those are the kind of gears that I do not enjoy anymore at all. When you see those on a bike, it really does give you a blow to the morale, doesn't it, Bob? Especially like you and I, we weren't the greatest climbers in the world.
No, we had a hard time on a climb like this that's very steep. It suits a man like Heras or Sevilla. It's a pure climber's ride. It's only 6 days into the Tour of Spain, and they're not tired at all. They haven't gotten into the resistance part of the stage race, so it's just a pure climber against the very best of it. So it's the third moto, and there's the front of the bike race. Vinokurov trying to hold the wheel of Sevilla so he can get the jersey at the end of the day, but it's going to be the stage for this man right now. If it stays the same, Roberto Heras of the U.S. Postal Team flying up this hill.
Well, this is going to be a great victory for him and for the team, because it's been one man, and now we appreciate just how good Christian van der Velde was today, putting Heras in a position to do this marvellous ride, and Christian did his job well, as he did yesterday. Now, as the fact that those runners can keep up with the man on the bike, it gives you some idea perhaps of how steep this climb is. Sevilla is trying to ride for second place. It is a real toughie now, as we look there and see Beloki here on the left of our picture, also knowing now he's got to come out and fight hard to limit his losses today.
Well, he has to limit his losses. His big advantage, Beloki's, is the fact that he time trials a lot better than the other two riders, but Heras is not showing any signs of weakness at all. He's ticking over at a very good cadence. He's obviously waiting to hear if he's got any information coming up to him from Johan Brunel, but right now he was around about 20 seconds ahead of this man, and just caught in the middle there you can see Roberto Simone, who is the man who, as Bob said, dynamited the race today, blew it to pieces and really forced the whole of this group to splinter on the slopes of this very difficult climb, which the Vuelta a España is going up for the first time ever.
Well, let's remember that Simone was out on the breakaway since the Category 2 climb that led up to the final climb, so he might have a little bit of fatigue creeping into his legs. Heras tactically perfect, and putting some time now into the Beloki group. Look at that, 42 seconds and 21 seconds.
Form of Roberto Heras was like, but I tell you one thing, Christian van der Velde knew exactly how his form was, and he went to the front and placed this man into orbit. He did a superb job for the team, as he did yesterday, setting up what is going to be a brilliant win. Look at this, Simone won't give up, Phil. He was dropped a few moments ago there by Óscar Sevilla, but he really is a brave bike rider.
He is.
He's the man who set it all up, and he's not going to go down without a good fight.
I'll tell you what, he might even come back up behind Óscar Sevilla there. Iban Mayo, the star of last year, coming back a little bit this time around now. He's saved himself for this Tour of Spain, and he's hanging on to the tails of Simone. They might get Sevilla, although I think on that shot Sevilla's got the gap he wants.
Well, there's Roberto Heras right now getting a brief respite over the summit of that climb. He's inside of 500 metres to go right now, and he's opened up some pretty serious time gaps over not only Óscar Sevilla but everybody else in this bike race, and probably by the end of the day about a minute and a half over Joseba Beloki.
Well, we're wondering just who will be taking the golden jersey. There's no doubt there will be a change right now. It could be Sevilla. It depends on the location of Vinokurov, who's losing time. Here he comes, though, and he is going to get an enormous applause when he crosses the line. He's won stages before in the Vuelta. He's won the Vuelta itself. But I don't think there's anything more satisfying when you're a great bike rider than when you conquer a mountain like this. He literally flew up this climb today, bridged, passed, left everybody, and has come clear on his own. This is a terrific result, raced right to the line to squeeze every possible second out of this stage.
Well, he knew it was an important moment, and he wasn't thinking about victory salutes. He was thinking about as much time as possible. Óscar Sevilla right now is going to try and get himself second place, but he's not going to have that honour right now, because Gilberto Simone accelerates. Well, that's a photo finish at the top of the climb there, and Mayo getting across the line in fourth place. But this is the important time gap right now. This is Alexander Vinokurov. He really needs to push it right now if he's going to get himself into the golden jersey by the end of today.
Well, let's see if he can. I think he might well have done enough, Paul, but he knows it's got to be a good result. Vinokurov is racing for the line as fast as he can. He'll finish in fifth place if he gets there. 43, 44, it's going to be close. Paul's working it all out as he hits the line. 47 seconds the gap for Vinokurov.
I have a feeling Sevilla is going to be in the jersey by just a fraction of a second there. There's Francesco Casagrande coming up there with Danilo De Luca, and Oscar Cammon's in with the world bands on his jersey. He's actually riding an absolutely superb Vuelta a España, and the time gaps are not as big as most people were expecting to be. And it looks like David Miller coming up as well.
Well, a good ride by David. He's coming up here, not too far off the tail of the big men in this tour at a minute and 15 time. First of all, the presentation to the stage winner, and what a great stage winner he was. Roberto Heras takes the stage victory, and I wonder if he has laid the foundation to a second final win in Madrid.
Well, he's moved up to third place in the overall standings with that ride today. He's made huge leaps and bounds up the classification. Started the day in 13th place, but I think for the team it will also bolster the morale of the group, won't it, Bob? Because he's come out on one of the hardest climbs so far and shown the team that he is in form, and he has got the ability to win this race for it.
I think his ambition is to make a top 10 finish in Madrid. He's still very close to achieving that. There's our Pyrenean lynx, I believe the mascot is. Although Bob threw me the other day when he called it an Iberian lynx, but he probably is technically correct as well, aren't you, Bob? The golden jersey. The man that wrecked the course in December told the journalists, I love that mountain. It could lose the race for many, but it might well have won it for Oscar.
Well, it will certainly have made a whole difference to the morale of the Kelme group right now. This man didn't know what was going to happen to him, Phil, at the start of the Tour de France this year, and until the last moment they weren't even sure whether the Kelme team was going to continue. They will continue it again next year, the longest serving professional team on the circuit, and right now they're riding high on the crest of a wave in their own Vuelta a España. But I have to say, and I agree with what Bob says, I think the victory today by Roberto Heras will make a complete change in the US Postal Service. Sometimes that's all it takes. As we look here at Óscar Sevilla coming up to the line, he did exactly what he had to today to get the jersey. For a few moments I thought his prediction that he was going to get the golden jersey were not going to come true today, but he has done that by 14 seconds ahead.